Thank you for watching QTV. With the news, my name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. All is set for the official launch of the National Dialogue in Lusaka this Friday. General Education Minister David Mobumba has warned school managers to stop forcing parents to buy school uniforms from schools. And President Edgar Lungu has condemned the terrorist attack in Kenya's capital Nairobi, in which 14 people died. And now the news in detail. All is set for the official launch of the National Dialogue at the Anglican Cathedral of the Holy Cross in Lusaka this Friday. Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops ZCCB Secretary General Cleophas Lungu has confirmed to Q News that stakeholders invited to attend the launch are already receiving formal invitations. Father Lungu says President Edgar Lungu, who is also the ruling Patriotic Front president, has also been sent a formal invitation to attend the launch. He has disclosed that he spoke to President Edgar Lungu and that the head of state looks forward to attending the launch. Father Lungu says others invited to attend the launch on Friday are representatives of political parties, civil society organizations, and the House of Chiefs. He adds that the invitations have also been extended to representatives of government ministries, statutory bodies, and media houses. The ZCCB Secretary General has also restated that the official launch of the National Dialogue will not be used as a meeting to discuss any agenda items pertaining the dialogue process.
Before we even announced the date, we were already in touch with the head of state, and as we see it, he remains committed to attend. You may wish to know that I personally was in touch with him as early as this morning, and he looks forward to attending the official launch. And yes, there are some engagements between now and then, but he's hopeful and is praying that he will be there. As we are talking, everything is said, and we are on course to officially launch the National Dialogue and Reconciliation process on Friday. And of course, on the list of those we call the presidents of political parties, definitely Honorable Kambili is not among those. But we have stated that this event is a national event. It is not limited to political party leaders or presidents. People of goodwill, people who would like to witness the launch of this important process are free to come. And we cannot bar anyone because of their color, because of their surname, because of their position in government or outside government.
Meanwhile, Opposition Patriots for Economic Progress PEP President Sean Tembo has accused the ruling Patriotic Front of using delaying tactics designed to undermine the national dialogue process. Mr. Tembo's comment comes in the wake of a story carried in one of the daily tabloids where a senior Patriotic Front official is quoted saying that the launch of the national dialogue process scheduled for Friday 18th of January should be postponed until the three church mother bodies resolve certain unknown pending issues with the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. Mr. Tembo says calls to postpone the launch of the national dialogue process is an indication that the ruling party is fundamentally opposed to the ongoing dialogue process so that it can continue to abuse the Public Order Act, the public media, and the electoral process.
By calling for the cancellation of the launch, which is scheduled for this Friday, 18th of January 2018. It must be noted that the PF have never really been interested in participating in the national dialogue process, and that is the primary reason why President Lungu absconded from the meeting which the church called on the 28th of December 2018 at Kapingila House. And it's on the same basis that the tourism minister was recently threatening to withdraw President Lungu from the national dialogue process. This is for the simple reason that the issues which the national dialogue process seeks to address, such as abuse of the media, abuse of the Public Order Act, are the same tools which the PF relies on to cling to power. So they would not want those tools to be taken away from them.
Civil Society Constitution Agenda CISCA has demanded that a draft constitution be released by the end of the first quarter of 2019. Speaking during a media briefing, CISCA Publicity Chairperson McDonald Chipenzi says CISCA is saddened that the year 2018 ended without a definite roadmap on the conclusion of the constitution refinement. Mr. Chipenzi says this despite the numerous submissions from several sections of the public and public announcement of receipt of these submissions, with a promise to publish the draft constitution in the Government Gazette by the Ministry of Justice. He states that as a result of failure to correct the constitution, the country is now in a free fall in terms of good governance, justice and human rights. Meanwhile, Mr. Chipenzi has called on every Zambian to support the church-led national dialogue and reconciliation process. He states that CISCA believes in dialogue as one of the cornerstones of democracy and surest way of achieving national healing and reconciliation, particularly in broken democracies.
We observed in the year past the worst forms and acts of undermining the Constitution by using the subsidiary laws while disregarding the supreme law of the land. An example is the use of the Public Order Act to suppress the constitutional guarantees of those opposed to the executive. The mess state of the Constitution is an agreed position among government and stakeholders that the current Constitution is loaded with inconsistencies, contradictions, and gaps, and hence the need to embark on the possible refinement process. In this vein, Civil Society Constitution Agenda is saddened that the year 2018 ended without a defined roadmap on the conclusion of the constitutional refinement process. Despite the numerous submissions from several sections of society or the public, and the public announcements of receipt of those submissions with a promise of the publication of the draft constitution in the Government Gazette by the Ministry of Justice. Despite the activities conducted towards the constitution refinement, government remained elusive, providing a concrete roadmap for this undertaking. As a result of the failure to correct the mess constitution, the country is now in a free fall in terms of good governance, justice, and human rights.
Speaking at the same briefing, CISCA Chairperson Bishop John Mambo says the national dialogue will be successful if the interest of the nation is put first.
I think this will come to pass. Sadly, it is heartbreaking where if you see of late, because church leaders have made up their mind regardless, and here now their names calling, no, they are doing this because of money involved and so forth. Glad that Father Lungu has cleared the air that look, that is not done because there's per diem allowances. They feel the Zambia is divided and the Zambia is hating, and we should come together and dialogue. In 1991, I was in the Ngomba Constitutional Review, and the majority of the Zambians wanted a constituent assembly. But because of the issue of allowances, per diems, and so forth, that was never allowed. How many commissioners have we had ever since the Ngomba Constitutional Review, coming with no clear constitution, countries in the region laughing at us? The question then was, who is going to fund the constituent assembly? The people in the village, and those are the ones that you look down upon and say, Swana Punzire. They will say, we shall sell our chicken, we shall sell our goat, but we need to be heard.
And CISCA core team member Judith Mulenga says hate speech among politicians pertaining to the national dialogue should be avoided as it erodes public confidence in the dialogue process.
It will just be a talking shop, because if you have any opinions about the other party that you're supposed to dialogue with, you wait until you are on the dialogue table before bringing them out. But where your left hand says, oh, we are ready to talk, and your right hand is saying this person is like this and this, it just means that your disposition at that moment is not for dialogue but for war. So it's all hypocrisy, and it's the hypocrisy that we've seen from politicians in this country, that they say they compartmentalize the messages they give to us depending on the time of day and whom they are with. So the same people will be talking certain language because maybe it's after lunch, they've just been full, and they are meeting with people I don't know who, and then by 15 hours, when it's time for the afternoon tea, they've changed their language. It's whole hypocrisy. So it takes away, it erodes the confidence that the public have in our political leaders because they are not consistent. They don't mean what they say.
Minister of General Education David Mabumba has warned of stern action against school managers in both private and public schools who have made the purchasing of school uniforms from their schools mandatory. Speaking when he addressed journalists on the sidelines of the ongoing 3-day education conference in Lusaka, Mr. Mabumba has charged that it is illegal for schools to compel parents to purchase uniforms from them. He says parents are at liberty to buy school uniforms from a vendor of their choice, provided they meet the requirements of the school and that their children has qualified to. Mr. Mabumba adds that this does not exclude private schools. Some schools are refusing to issue letters of acceptance to pupils that have qualified to either grade 8 or 10 until they purchase school uniforms from the school.
But there is no policy or no instruction or no directive from the ministry that school uniforms should be a mandatory process. So it's important for you as our media colleagues to convey this information as much as it is short to our public as the school calendar begins, that the purchase of a school uniform is not mandatory. It's not compulsory that a parent should go and buy a uniform from the schools. Parents have got a choice. They can go and buy the uniform from anywhere they want. And I want to indicate to our peers who are here, and I've already briefed them, that as we finish this press briefing, what is going to happen, our spokesperson will, through the PS, will issue also an official statement, maybe in the newspapers, so that it is very clear that it is not compulsory, it is not mandatory, but if it is a requirement, a school uniform is a requirement, the parent can buy it from wherever they want. If they want to go and buy it from England, if they have the money, let them go and buy, as long as it meets the requirements of the school in terms of color, in terms of size, and everything.
The Zambia Revenue Authority ZRA Mobile Compliance Unit has seized a South African truck illegally carrying assorted alcoholic beverages worth 700,000 kwacha. ZRA Mobile Compliance Unit Manager Thomas Mulenga disclosed that the truck was found with forged documents indicating that it was carrying assorted footings, but that after further inspections it was discovered that the truck had concealed assorted alcoholic beverages worth 700,000 kwacha. Mr. Mulenga has told journalists that the truck was intercepted early this month along the Chirundu Road en route to South Africa. Meanwhile, the Zambia Revenue Authority has launched its new customs enforcement uniform, which is aimed at boosting the morale of enforcement units to work in a bushy, dusty, dirty environments in their fight against smuggling. We have more in this report.
As funny as it might look and as unattractive as one might describe it, this is the first of its kind for Zambia Revenue Authority Customs Enforcement Officers, or the Anti-Smuggling Squad. The anti-smuggling officers have been using the white and blue uniforms and reflective jackets during their operations for the past 5 years. The new uniforms, which have seen citizens take to social media platforms before and after the launch to ridicule, have today officially been launched. The launch was preceded by a march past from the ZRA Didan Kimati officers to the ZRA headquarters, which saw the officers proudly marching and showing off their new attire. ZRA Commissioner Customs Sydney Chivawuka explains the significance of the new uniforms purchased at over 2,000 kwacha per set.
We also want to take this opportunity to inform the public that we will continue using our white and blue regular uniform when conducting routine customs functions. We have not abandoned our traditional uniform. Again, for the information of the public, the cost of the uniform per set was 2,175 kwacha only. The set comprises the combat, the boots, t-shirts, belts, cap, and insignia. In closing, Commissioner General, I wish to restate that for us in customs, our uniform symbolizes our desire for professionalism, our commitment to transparency, our desire to be visible at all times, and our sense of pride and belonging. Once again, I wish to thank everyone for your support. Please continue criticizing us for us to become a better customs agency.
And Zambia Revenue Authority Commissioner General Kingsley Chanda officially launched the new uniform with an assurance on the authority's commitment to curb smuggling in the country.
Our zero tolerance to smuggling and all forms of tax evasion will continue in 2019. But we'll also add something. This time, instead of just seizing, we want to start prosecuting tax evaders. And we think that will give additional deterrence. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of this uniform to be used by our enforcement units and the anti-smuggling units who spend sleepless nights in the bush and other dangerous places will boost their morale in the fight against smuggling. This uniform is for the enforcement purposes and for use by officers who work in dust areas where our white shirts and blue trousers are clearly inappropriate. I think the Commission has stated that issue. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue of smuggling is not a joking matter.
The authority took advantage of the occasion to inform the nation on the latest seizure of a South African truck for illegally carrying assorted alcoholic beverages worth 700,000 kwacha.
Our mobile compliance unit along the Chirundu route, it was found with forged documents which were indicating that it was carrying some assorted fittings. However, when we brought this truck to our yard in Makeni, we opened it and did our inspections. It was found that the truck was actually carrying assorted alcoholic beverages with a tax value of about 700,000. Therefore, we had to proceed and seize it because of what we found to be forgery and false representation. So as it stands, it's a seized truck together with the consignment.
The launch of the new uniform is a milestone achievement for the Zambia Revenue Authority, which for the past 5 years has had its anti-smuggling unit operating without a specific uniform of its own. Nakaonga reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
Transparency International Zambia TIZ Executive Director Wesley Chibamba has appealed to President Edgar Lungu to provide leadership in ensuring that austerity measures are implemented and respected by all. Mr. Chibamba says government should stop wasteful expenditure of public resources, especially that which is done legally, because it attracts no sanctions. Commenting on reports that First Lady Esther Lungu is scheduled to lead a 25-man delegation to be partly sponsored by government to receive a donation of fire trucks on behalf of government in the United States, Mr. Chibamba says legal wastage of public resources includes undertaking unnecessary trips as well as carrying unnecessary huge delegations that have little bearing on the purpose of the trip, as is the case with the First Lady's trip. He says President Lungu should be the first to condemn wanton mismanagement of public resources, stating that fiscal discipline and prudent financial stewardship should start with the president, including those that act in his capacity, like the First Lady. According to the latest Auditor General's report, wasteful expenditure increased by 219% between 2016 and 2017, from over 3.5 million kwacha in 2016 to over 7.8 million kwacha in 2017.
Transparency International Zambia wishes to advise the Zambian government to avoid at all costs what we call legal wastage of public resources. Legal wastage of public resources includes undertaking unnecessary trips or carrying unnecessarily huge delegations on such and other trips. The story that was carried in News Diggers about a committee to go and receive 4 fire trucks in the United States, led by the First Lady of the country, makes very sad reading for any concerned citizen. Honestly, how does the whole lot of a First Lady travel abroad with a 25-man delegation to go and receive 4 fire trucks on behalf of the country? And this is supposedly supposed to take 15 days. We don't understand how this is happening, and that is why we're calling this a legal wastage of public resources. I mean, there is a Zambian ambassador to the United States who could receive this donation on behalf of the government, or indeed it could have been done here with the American ambassador in attendance. In, between 2016 and 2017, we saw an increase of about 219% in wasteful expenditure. In 2016, it stood at 3.5 million. In 2017, it stood at 7.8 million. Ordinarily, this is supposed to be a red flag, and it is supposed to inform the government that they are supposed to channel efforts towards reducing.
President Edgar Lungu has sent a message of condolences and solidarity to his Kenyan counterpart Uhuru Kenyatta following a terrorist attack on a hotel in the capital, Nairobi, in which 14 people died and several others sustained serious injuries. He has condemned the destructive and senseless face of terrorism in all its forms and renewed Zambians' commitment to global efforts to fight terrorism and preserve peace and democracy. President Lungu says the people of Zambia expressed their shock, sympathy, and unwavering support to the people of Kenya following the terror attack. He is happy that the 19-hour siege at the Dusit complex is now over and that all the terrorists have been eliminated. President Lungu has praised the courage and professionalism of the Kenyan security services, who carried out a meticulous operation and managed to rescue more than 700 people from the hotel complex. He says Zambia and Kenya share the deepest bonds of friendship, and that those that seek to cause the two societies harm should know that there is no space within the brotherly neighborhood for violence and terrorism. This is contained in a statement issued by Special Assistant to the President for Press and Public Relations, Amos Chanda. Government has been advised against ignoring the advice to quickly set the rate at which it will levy the sales tax, which comes into effect in April this year. Movement for National Transformation MNT leader Daniel Shmunza says there is merit in the advice that government gives adequate details on the sales tax before implementation. Mr. Shmunza has urged government to realize that it cannot introduce such a tax with scanty information and expect business to comply accordingly. He has told QTV News that it is in the best interest of the government that it does not therefore delay any further in spelling out all the necessary details on the sales tax. Mr. Shmunza says providing adequate information on this tax will also enable government to ascertain beforehand the risks it will pose on the cost of doing business in the country. He says a government should in this case equally consult widely with all relevant stakeholders before implementing the tax.
This is why for us we are advocating for the access to information bill. You cannot implement a tax regime of sales tax, but the information you are given is very scant, insofar as details are concerned. So if the information is adequate, how do people position themselves to begin to adhere to these taxes? So it is in the interest of government to give adequate information to all stakeholders so that then people should be ready to prepare for the implementation of this tax regime. If information is not given, people are not prepared to act accordingly, and compliance will become a problem. So it's in the interest of government that they give the adequate information to all stakeholders insofar as this tax is concerned.
The Human Rights Commission is deeply concerned at the reported detention of Loveness Katongo Mwale, the wife of the police officer who is alleged to have shot dead his colleague in Lusaka and is on the run. In a statement, Commission spokesperson Mwirwa Mulea says the Commission is seriously concerned at the flagrant violation of Mrs. Mwale's constitutional right to liberty as enshrined under the Article 13 of the Constitution of Zambia. He says the relatives to Mrs. Mwale complained to the Commission that she was brutally apprehended by police officers in their vehicles on Friday, 11th January 2019 and taken to Charleston Police Station where she was detained. Mr. Mulea says the Commission has also received disturbing reports from Mrs. Mwale's relatives that she has allegedly been tortured and was being denied access to medication, adding that her relatives do not know her whereabouts since Saturday, 12th January 2019, when she was last seen in detention at Charleston Police Station. He states that the right to liberty can only be lawfully taken away, among other circumstances, where there is a court order or upon reasonable suspicion of a person having committed or is about to commit a criminal offense under the law in force in Zambia. Mr. Mlea says the Commission is therefore calling upon the police to immediately release Mrs. Mwale from custody and respect her rights to liberty, health, inherent dignity, and allow her to communicate and meet with her family and relatives. The opposition UPND has called for transparency in the distribution of chemicals government has purchased to contain the outbreak of armyworms in the country. UPND chairperson for Rural Development Mono Mapani says his party expects government to ensure that chemicals are distributed evenly to all affected districts. Mr. Mapani says the UPND does not expect government to use chemicals for political mileage, especially in areas where by-elections are due to take place. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Mapani says his party further expects the chemicals to be given to all affected farmers for free. He states that the UPND is aware that the chemicals were bought using part of a recent grant the African Development Bank, AFDB, gave to the Zambian government.
There are districts, actually a good number of districts, or 46 districts are affected with these armyworms. And we don't expect anyone to politicize this. All the districts affected should be given these chemicals evenly, regardless of the political affiliations. Because this affects all Zambians, and is a grant given to Zambia as a country, not Zambia as a political party. With this, we expect those who have been entrusted with the duty to distribute, let it be done evenly. Further, this is a grant. We expect this chemical to be distributed free of charge. We don't want to hear these chemicals are being sold. These chemicals are being sold or given to anyone at a fee. It's supposed to be free of charge.
Some grade 12 pupils and a class teacher have appeared in the Kapiri-Mposhi Magistrate Court on charges of examination leakages. Before Kapiri-Mposhi Magistrate Mwila Marupande were Talent Jefunda 20 and others, and Hagai Kayuni, a school teacher from Kamulowe School. The grade 12 pupils are charged with the offense of unauthorized possession of examination papers or information contrary to Section 19 Cap 1 of the Examination Council Zambia Act, Chapter 137 of the Laws of Zambia. Meanwhile, Kayuni is appearing in court for the offense of disclosure of examination questions contrary to Section 18 Cap 1 of the Examination Council of Zambia Act, Chapter 137 of the Laws of Zambia. Particulars of the offense were that on November 12, 2018, the pupils had in their possession grade 12 Science Paper 2 relating to the content of 2018 Science Final Examination without authority. Kayuni, on unknown dates but between October and November 2018 in Kapiri-Mposhi, did disclose examination question papers or information related to 2018 examinations to some pupils. Kayuni is accused of disseminating the 2018 grade 12 science examination paper through social media to pupils. The 12 pupils and the teacher pleaded not guilty when the case came up for plea. Magistrate Marupande has since set 29 January 2019 as date for the commencement of trial. Kaputa Member of Parliament Maxas Ngonga says his constituency will this year use part of the 2018 Constituency Development Fund (CDF) to construct 2 health posts. Mr. Ngonga says part of the CDF will also be used to upgrade 2 community schools in the constituency. He tells QTV News that youth and women empowerment programs will equally be apportioned allocations from last year's CDF.
Our Constituency Development Fund for the people of Kaputa has actually been, provided or given to us, and therefore we are thinking and we are planning that in 2019 we should be able to put up about 2 more health posts to upgrade 2 community schools, and also to apportion some money to the youth and women empowerment. This is basically the big focus that we'll be looking at, but these decisions will be made together with my constituents.
Financial Sector Deepening Zambia, FSD Chief Executive Officer Betty Wilkinson says customer expectations are just one of the challenges confronting the insurance industry, which operates in an unpredictable environment. Speaking during a signing ceremony between ZISC Life and FSD Zambia under the Finland-centric cycle, Ms. Wilkinson says the partnership with ZISC Life will ensure that customers are at the heart of the design and development of a life insurance product to serve members of cooperatives and their families. Ms. Wilkinson says this will enable Zambians to understand and access a sustainable, comparable and affordable inclusive insurance product that meets their needs.
It's grown from our thinking and our consultation with suppliers, from dedicated research, and from careful observation of actual and potential clients. F3C encourages both formal and informal approaches to help a range of financial service providers to understand the financial needs of households and to design focused products that respond directly to customer needs and circumstances. The F3C approach is based on human-centered design, which is a creative approach to problem solving. The process starts with understanding the problems faced by specific groups of Zambians and ends with new and field-validated solutions to address their challenges. The complete cycle, as you've seen on the boards here, involves 4 steps: understand, design, test, and evaluate, with frequent interaction between target clients and internal teams in companies. At the completion of the cycle, each F3C partner will understand these processes and continue this innovation on their own. F3C issued an open application invitation to financial service providers interested in partnering with us to develop and deliver effective customer-centric financial services and to learn this methodology so they can use it for themselves.
Speaking at the same ceremony, ZISC Life Managing Director Christopher Banda says one of the reasons why there is low insurance penetration in the country is because the insurance industry has failed to provide products that are tailor-made and speak to the needs of the intended market. She says the facility from FSD Zambia will therefore enable the company to accelerate the process of developing client-centric products.
The financial inclusion strategy that was set out in 2017, running up to 2022, indicates that the goal is to increase the financial inclusion from the current 59% to around 80% by 2022. And obviously, as ZISC Life being a national state-owned life insurer, our focus is to ensure that we help drive this agenda and ensure that as many Zambians as possible are included financially. And so what we've noted is that in the insurance sector, the penetration levels are low because some of the products that we offer do not speak to the needs of the Zambians. We normally offer products that we think as insurance company is what the client needs. And so what we believe is that we need to offer products that speak to what the client wants. And so this facility for us is very welcome because it will give us an opportunity to go out and try to understand what the customer wants. We try to understand the needs. We look at their financial, the risks that they face, and see how best we can develop products that will speak to their needs. And we believe that the success of this project will definitely improve the financial inclusion across the country.
And the Zambia Cooperative Federation ZCF Director Derek Sokomi says the partnership sets the foundation for a more beneficial relationship between the organizations, particularly ZCF and ZISC Life.
The fund being provided under this partnership
will help in the development of innovative tailor-made micro-insurance products for farmers who are members of ZCF. And we understand, by so doing, we are being earmarked as the first beneficiaries for this partnership and initiative. For farmers that do not match, we know that in the past, the offering of insurance products, there's been a trend where they produce products that do not match the needs of the farmers. But with this initiative, and from what I've understood, it is tailor-made to meet their requirements and needs. But with this approach that you have come up with, from the understanding and learning that I was made to understand through the collaboration and understanding of the initiative that has been put before us, we understand that there is a special development of the product that is meant to tailor and to meet the requirements.
In the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. All is set for the official launch of the National Dialogue in Lusaka this Friday. General Education Minister David Mabumba has warned school managers to stop forcing parents to buy school uniforms from schools. And President Edgar Lungu has condemned the terrorist attack in Kenya's capital Nairobi, in which 14 people died. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe, keep watching QTV.